You got men that are part angel, women that are part angel, hybrid, what we would call something like aliens. Because you don't know what it is, right? It's part this and part that. The Bible said that when these parts came together, they created a race of beings that were so evil that all they did was think about evil continually. They created giants or Nephilim. Nephilim are the product of the sons of God and the daughters of men. Are y'all still with me? It's getting very interesting, isn't it? Oh, just wait. So we got these Nephilim on earth. Now, if you saw a 30-foot man walking down the street, he walk up to you, in all of our eyes, he's automatically God. I mean, it's like, yes, Lord, what would you have for me to do? You know what I'm saying? 30 feet, how tall is this ceiling, Pastor? 20, 25, 30? Yeah. God. Well, how do you think that the people felt when these beings were down and they were mixing with humans, showing themselves great and mighty and powerful? Then, what we don't think about, they had knowledge that wasn't of this dimension because they came from another dimension. So that means they were smart, or compared to us, enlightened. Are y'all still with me? This was a weird situation because you had people, you just had all this stuff going on in this particular time. God is seeing it, is creating evil, wickedness, and even more wickedness. Then we come to Genesis 6 and 9, where God, the Bible tells us, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation. They're not saying here that Noah did everything right. Noah was perfect because he had the only bloodline that wasn't corrupted by the fallen angels or the Nephilim. Are y'all with me now? Y'all seeing what's happening here? So God is saying, I'm going to destroy mankind, but I'm going to find me a pure genetic bloodline to start this thing over again. So Noah walked with God into the ark, brought in the animals and the creatures that God told him to bring in, and then what happened? The flood. Look at somebody and say flood. The Bible said that the fountains opened up and water came from under these beings because they were 30 feet tall. How long would it take rain to drown them? You know, Noah them had 40 days worth of food. So the water had to come from under them to drown these big 30-foot and taller or whatever hybrid beings, whatever they were doing, whatever they were able to do. You know, I don't even want to think about it because it gets a little scary, don't it? But all these beings God began to drown and destroy them because he wanted to start mankind over again. Now, this lets us know once the flood starts, angels were locked away till judgment. According to the passage in Jude, it tells us that the angels that left their first estate that came down, God locked them away and reserved them unto judgment. Then, of course, the daughters of Adam that drowned, we know they go to hell. But there is a question that we must ask ourselves. Where did the Nephilim spirits go? What are the Nephilim spirits? Well, you had this hybrid, this angel mixed with this human, creating a hybrid entity. When you kill that body, where does that spirit go? It's of both worlds. Where does it go? Half angel, half human. Isaiah 26 tells us that They can't be resurrected. So we know that these beings during the flood, the beings drowned, but the spirits, where did they go? I'll tell you where they went, and this is one of the most important points I'm going to make for you tonight. According to the scripture, when the ark rested and waters subsided, Noah came out and they began to multiply. The Bible tells us that corruption started again. Y'all still with me? And it leads us to these two people right here. Probably the most important figures in sorcery and witchcraft, false god worship. Nimrod, Osiris, Jupiter, all the major false gods are represented by this one God. They're all parallels. Now, I have to let you know what I'm talking about because it's very important, because we're living in a time where knowledge has increased. Because of that, you're going to have a lot of people challenge your God of the Bible, your virgin birth of Jesus, by a parallel situation. Remember, Satan is out to... So he wants to destroy God's work. So what he's going to do is he's going to mimic what God is doing. He knew that the seed of the woman would produce Jesus, so he created his own version. This is Semiramis, and this is the birth of her son Ninus, who is actually the reincarnation of Nimrod, because she's Nimrod's wife and mother. Okay, this is going to make sense in just a minute. Nimrod supposedly had died, and they cut him up in 14 pieces, and they only found 13 pieces. Y'all know about that. And he was missing his penis. And so she made a golden one. That's where we get the phallus. That's where we get all the tall monuments and different things. They all come from this false god idea of Nimrod and Semiramis. Well, it's very important for you to understand that all the Egyptian religions, all of the mythology, all of the astrology, everything points to Nimrod being the incarnation of a god. What did Nimrod do? Nimrod built the Tower of Babel, or had it built under his rule. Are y'all with me? Why were they building the Tower of Babel? Because they believed that Nimrod belonged in heaven. So they were building a tower to get Nimrod up a porthole into heaven. How are they doing that? Because they were using the knowledge of enlightened beings and the spirits of the drowned Nephilim. See, the spirits stayed here, and they are what we know today as demons. You ever been casting out a demon? Sometimes demons will address themselves as the old ones. These are beings from back that used to have supreme bodies and ruled as rulers because of their height, because of the information, because of their knowledge. They were rulers on earth in their eyes. God washed them all away, but their spirits had nowhere to go. Are y'all still with me? They're what we know today as demons, and these demons are constantly trying to recreate a situation where they can get worship and be a superior being again. Are y'all still with me? Oh, it's going to make sense in a minute. So all the old ancient cultures point to Nimrod and Semiramis because of their building of the Tower of Babel. Not just the Tower of Babel, but what else did they do? They created the most wicked culture ever in the world's history, and that was the wicked city of what? Babylon. Babylon. Sodom was born out. All of wickedness was born out of Babylon. What was going on in Babylon? Sorcery, witchcraft. They had the blueprint to the heavens. They believed they could build this tower. All this wickedness. Where was it coming from? It was coming from the knowledge of the fallen angels. Y'all still with me? The devil is using this, trying to work this out. So God finally... let me explain the third eye. It's very important. See, the third eye, this is the eye of Horus in Egyptian mythology, and I got to rush through this real quick. But in Egyptian mythology, they believe that when Adam and Eve were tempted to eat off the tree, it would open up their eye. It would give them knowledge of a supreme being. So that's why they were enticed to open their third eye by eating off the tree of knowledge. That is where the third eye came from, if you ever wanted to know. So when you see people wearing the eye, when you see them celebrating the eye in the Egyptian culture, you understand that is the eye of knowledge, or the eye that makes you a god. Are y'all with me? So this is what the devil was tempting Adam and Eve with. Open your eye. The third eye. Now this is an actual statue of Osiris. He's wearing a fish hat. That looks familiar. That's the one the Pope wears. He's wearing this demonic fish hat, and he's Osiris, but he translates in all other ancient cultures as a supreme god. Are y'all still with me? Everybody had their own version. The Sumerians had Gilgamesh, and then the Greek, they had Zeus, and then some had great Odin, and they had all these stories or these fables, but they were all pointing to this one great ruler who was Nimrod in the Bible. So we're going to use the Bible version. Is that all right? You'll find it in all the different cultures. You got this baby being born, supposedly being born of a virgin and giving birth to Nimrod as he comes back to take his rightful place and rule. People are still waiting on that. So when they see that, they try to parallel that with Jesus and say, wait a minute, 3,000 years before Christ was ever born, they already had a birth of Christ. Well, what that is that's Satan running parallel, trying to introduce it to make it look like it has already happened, so it would hurt your faith. Are y'all understanding me? The atheists have already begun to make movies. They've already got information all over the internet. And I'm saying this so you better be real smart. When you read, they try to parallel astrology and say, well, Jesus, the story of Jesus had already happened. Well, that is Satan being deceptive. This is an important message. Please pay attention, y'all. I'm going somewhere. Look at somebody and say, he's going somewhere. Wickedness increased. Nimrod and Semiramis, wickedness just increased, got more and more wicked. Just times got wicked. They began to worship him as God. He began to set himself up as a mighty man of God. He began to use astrology and teach them how to use the stars and all the abominations before God. But God said, you know what? I'm not going to destroy mankind this time with a flood. He promised he wouldn't do that. This time, I'm going to create a people that will take my godly legacy on and judge this wickedness. What did he do? He created, look at somebody and say, Israel. He created Israel through Abraham's seed. He created a people that would honor him. He gave them laws and rules and told them, don't be like these worldly folk. Don't be like the Babylon and Nimrod. No, you worship me. I'm your only God. He gave them rules through Moses. Don't you understand? Abraham constantly fought giants, hybrids. It's like a sci-fi story. Moses, the Amalekites were giants. They're constantly going in and judging these wicked people and these wicked races, fighting to the finish. But they were God's people and they were holy. They were set apart. And the seed of Abraham was called to fight the Nephilim spirits. Are y'all still with me? I hope y'all are getting a picture here. And then eventually, as they begin to fight, the inevitable begins to happen. One day they're fighting and Start losing. Been winning ever since. Don't even know what it feels like to lose. Start losing. And Joshua says, hey, God, we losing. We're your chosen people. We're supposed to be winning. God says, something is wrong. You have sin in your camp. Now listen, please. There's no way you're going to fight evil with evil. You are set apart, called out, peculiar people carrying the bloodline that will produce the seed of the woman. You can't do what the world is doing and win. So Joshua, they go looking in the tents and they found Achan, found junk in his tent, went and got all the junk out, burned him up, killed him, his family, everything, destroyed it all and said, okay, God, we're holy again. Start winning the battles again. This is the real battle of good and evil. And then we know that over time that kept happening, that situation, but Israel, God created judges to begin to judge Israel so that they would stay pure and holy before God. Are y'all with me? And this is the stories that happened around all of this time and these different things. And I want you to understand something. Luke 11:24 is a very important passage. It says, when an unclean spirit, the spirit of the Nephilim, the hybrid spirit, has gone out of a person, it roams through waterless places. I believe that's a reference to the flood. Waterless places in search of a place to rest, and finding none, it says, I will go back to my house from which I came. But when you destroy their bodies, they have nowhere to go. Understand this right here. If we're talking about giant, powerful, enlightened beings that once roamed the earth, they lose their bodies, they're going to want to be a worship deity again. That's why they jump in Nimrod and become great and try to get back up to heaven because they can't go back on their own. Try to build a way through the Tower of Babel. They jump in Semiramis and begin to understand the stars and astrology and create all this mythology and all this wickedness and witchcraft. They begin to jump in beings, Anubis and all these different gods of Egyptians and all these different Greek gods and all these different ones that were lifted up as great. They jump in them so that they can usurp the worship of people because they were once great, powerful beings. Are y'all with me now? But when they have nowhere to go, they search. Something that is very important about symbols, and I talked about symbols in depth in part 4. I can't go into all the symbols, but I want you to understand something by some very important people on symbols real quick before we go into the rest of it. Symbolism is the language of the mystery, says Manly P. Hall. His name will sound familiar to you. By symbols, men have ever sought to communicate to each other those thoughts which transcend the limitations of language. So basically, with symbols, you can say certain things without saying them. Are y'all with me? As you would see the capstone on the pyramid, this is a message. Some of you don't know what that message is, but there is that open eye, which is the third eye, the eye that makes you God. And then here is an unfinished pyramid, which represents an unfinished tower, which represents Babylon, the Tower of Babel. Are y'all with me? So this eye is going to eventually cap this and become a capstone, this piece right here, and complete the work that was started. What is that message? That message is that the eye of Nimrod, the eye of Horus, the eye of Osiris, the all-seeing eye, the eye that if you eat off the tree, you will be a god. That eye belongs to someone that can complete this work. Hope y'all are still with me. And we understood in part 4, we talked about Freemasonry. I hope you get it so you can understand. Freemasonry uses this symbolism because Freemasons believe in the great architect of the universe, which is not God, but that is Osiris, that is Nimrod, great architect. Why is he a great architect? Because he's building. What is he building? He's building a porthole up to heaven so he can be ruler as God. Are y'all still with me? I want you to get this stuff now. Some of it's going to go pretty quick. But they believe, the Freemasons believe that Nimrod or Osiris is going to come back and he's going to finish the work that he started. That's why their symbol is the protractor. And that's why they believe that he's the great architect. He's a builder. He built the tower. A very important man in history. This is Aleister Crowley. He's known as the most wicked man that has ever lived. 33rd degree Freemason. Crowley was the foremost Satanist of the modern era. He made no bones about the fact that he served Lord Satan. He was so evil, his own mother called him the Beast. He called himself regularly by this name and by the number 666. Crowley, this is very important, pay attention, devised a hybrid brand of black magic that is in vogue today. He was convinced that he was incarnated, or he was incarnating a new magical era that would supersede Christianity. Here's his eye. He believed in opening up that eye so you can understand magic and other dimensions. You can tap into knowledge. Eat off the tree. He had this book 777 about Kabbalistic teachings and writings. Basically, the book shows you how to tap into an ancient old one so that you can assert power for today. If you want to be a powerful musical artist, if you want to be a world-renowned actor, singer, or performer, this book, 777, teaches you how to find an old Nephilim spirit, what they call old ones. Summon that spirit in you by rituals and use that power for influence over people. Some of the things he taught, he said, let him train himself to think backwards, talking about his pupils, by eternal means and set forth by the following. Let him learn to write backwards, not just writing backwards, but putting messages and symbols backwards that the average eye couldn't understand. Let him learn to walk backwards. That means looking like you're going forward, but you are really moving backwards. Let him learn to listen to records back then reversed. That means listen to the hidden messages that come forth in a backwards message, because you understand there's no way you can say a literal series of words forward to produce something backwards. It has to be a spiritual event only. So whenever you hear backwards messages, you say, now, if I write it down, it doesn't say that. That's because it's a spiritual occurrence that can't be explained. That's why he said, let him practice doing that. Instead of I am he, let him say E am I. These are Aleister Crowley's magic tips. Y'all still with me? Oh, it's about to get good. Look at somebody say, it's going to get good, trust me. First group that really tapped into the power of Aleister Crowley and used his magic in 777 and his methods of channeling Nephilim spirits were the Beatles. Beatles still famous today. They just came out with a Beatles rock band game for the young folks to be introduced to Aleister Crowley's first pupils. Aleister Crowley, the Beatles put backwards messages in their music saying serve Satan and worship Satan. See, the thing is, when you make a deal with these Nephilim spirits to come and make you famous, you have to signal people so that those that are followers of Satan or those that are enlightened or have knowledge can see the symbols and know who you're working for. See, there's not anybody that fools with Crowley that doesn't signal you that they're with Crowley. They will let you know. The Beatles, how did they let you know? They came out with this Sgt. Pepper album, and if we look real close, there he is. Aleister Crowley. 666, the Beast. Aleister Crowley shows up in other places. Bam. I got to walk heavy. You know, church folk trust the government. Oh, they believe that everything is going to be all right. Even though their Bible that they say they read tells them, pray for those in leadership. Why? Because they're evil. They're Freemasons. Annuus coeptus is translated, the true translation is, he approves our undertaking. Who is he? Nimrod, the great architect of the universe. That's his eye. There's his unfinished tower. Folk want to make this holy. God's great undertaking. It's God, all right, but it ain't the God. A God's undertaking. Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new order of the age, or as we would put it, or as one of the famous Bush presidents would say, a new world order. Unfinished pyramid, unfinished tower. And the eye is coming to finish his work. Y'all still with me? Now, if you don't want your dollar, give it to me. I ain't scared of Nimrod. Let's have some sense, amen? Folks would get my videos and, so I'm not supposed to eat? I can't spend no money. I said, then just write checks and get a credit card. If you're scared of the dollar, good gracious. I'm just giving you information. And they tell you not to spend it. Now you really need to give it. Come on, bring out the buckets. Get rid of them Nimrod dollars. There's an organization of 300 men. There's an organization of 13 men, which are represented by the 13 steps leading up this pyramid. This group is called the Illuminati, the enlightened ones, the ones that see through the third eye and know what you don't know. They are at work fast to fix this situation and complete this work. Google will be busy tonight, amen? Get to Googling, I always tell you. So Aleister Crowley even influenced Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, reading the writings of Aleister Crowley and decided our money is the perfect place for his eye. So he began to channel the spirits. A president? Yes. Channel the spirit. Why? Power. If he can dig in and find an old one that used to rule and be great, get that in him, he can be great as well. worshiped by you. Oh, I'm preaching now. I don't even have to show Beyonce. Look at somebody and say, yes, you do, yeah. If it's going to be a hip-hop message. One artist that was influenced heavily by Aleister Crowley when he said write backwards, sing backwards, listen to records backwards, Prince. You know, folks are shocked. Have you seen Prince? Look at somebody and say, what you shocked about? Prince put his hair up against any woman in here and beat you. You be trying to hide your head if he's sitting next to you. Prince make your hair look like nothing. Stand next to some little girls in here and his body a tad hairs up. Be trying to hide yourself, Prince. Finer than women. And we watch and listen to this stuff and I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with Prince. What? Helen Keller knows. Helen Keller too. This is 1999 CD album cover, records, LPs, with no CDs. Prince took Aleister Crowley's advice a lot. He mimicked him a lot. He infused it in this Prince album. If you read it forwards, it's not telling you anything, but if you flip it backwards, there's a message. It says 666 with a male organ and evil. That's what Aleister Crowley said, do. That's not enough for you? When Prince won a gold album for this, look how he designed his album. Third eye, the eye, Adam and Eve, eat off the tree, and your eye, what God don't want you even dealing with, you'll be enlightened. Can I preach in here? Oh, y'all, I haven't even started yet. I promise. Aleister Crowley wrote a book called The Book of the Law. This is the symbol. His one law was this: do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So he believed, do whatever you want to do. That is the rule. Do what thou wilt.